Alright. Okay, I think everything's live at the moment, so let me pull up my list of NPCs, or technically potential PCs at this point, and we will do the damn thing. That's right here. Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen. I am Caleb. I am the normal DM for Dungeon Pizza, and for this one-shot that we're going to be trying out tomorrow. Now, this is more or less a test one-shot to determine to see if the BG3 concept that I'm looking to execute is going to work. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 like crazy, and I love it. It's one of the best games I've ever played, but also it gives me inspiration to potentially try this out in my own universe and in our own world. On the Dungeon Pizza channel, or the many names that we've had in the past years, you can chronologically go back, and we've been to a lot of places in the Forgotten Realms. And we've visited Baldur's Gate a couple times. One when we went to Avernus, but when we did that campaign, we essentially skipped the Baldur's Gate part and went straight into Avernus. So what this would be, since I think Baldur's Gate 3 takes place immediately after the descent into Avernus, and El Turel gets raised back, or at least, I think the people from El Turel get brought into Baldur's Gate, however that ending goes. We're basically going to be going from there. We've also visited Baldur's Gate, I think, on our Out of the Abyss campaign, but we only visited there for I think an hour or two after we escaped the Underdark the first time. And we visited Baldur's Gate in our Skyorphans campaign when we traveled to the continent of Faerun, and Kaladin spent a couple days over in Baldur's Gate drinking and trying to figure out how to get out of Baldur's Gate. Beyond the point, we visited there several times, and the concept that I wanted to use here is that there are a lot of different characters in Baldur's Gate 3, from the NPCs to the characters. The only characters that are not going to be accessible for my player to draw from this bowl, because I'm using this bowl right here, is going to be the main characters. Characters like Shadowheart, Lae'zel. These characters, I feel, are very specific and tailored towards the BG3 experience when it comes to PC, and I want a unique experience when it comes to all these different NPCs and characters that, didn't get a chance to really shine. Some of them have more of a tailored story than others, but most don't. But I'm going to actually have some pictures here for myself in order to kind of shout out which ones I see, or at least which ones I remember, because I got to write them down. I probably needed a blank piece of paper, since it's kind of what we're doing, but it doesn't really matter, right? All I need to do is just cut out a piece of paper and start going. But this is going to take a while. I got my scissors here, and we're just going to be writing names down. First is Aaron. Now, Aaron, okay, so by the way, if you haven't played BG3, there might be a couple of spoilers here and here. If you don't want to hear about them, then I suggest you probably click off of this live stream / video. Aaron is the trader that you see in the Druid Grove, the first trader that you technically come across in the game, the halfling dude, I believe. I don't know if he's a druid. I think he might be a part of the Grove. I'm not exactly sure. But that's the first name that we're writing here, since it's chronologically going in the order of names. His name starts with an A, and then the next name letter, I believe, after that is an R. So this is Aaron. First name in the bowl. Admiral what a name. Admiral Peel Holofin. Now, he's in Act 3, so I don't know exactly what his character is. That's a crazy name. I'm just going to go with Admiral Peel. Admiral Peel going in the bucket. The bowl bucket thing. Yes. Boom. Next is Alor. Now let's see who Alor is. I'm just gonna have to do this. Oh, wait, I've already done that. Alor seems to be one of the druids from the Druid Grove. So Alor. Now, what I didn't take into account is my terrible handwriting, which is god awful. Next is Alis. Now, spoiler alert, Alis is the random wizard guy that's in the sewers of Baldur's Gate that has a whole bunch of elementals on his side if you decide to fight him. So that's Alis. Next is Raider Ahurag. Now, I don't know how long I'm going to stream with this, me just doing this, because, you know, I don't want to... I want to make sure it's some sort of substance when it comes to what I'm saying and doing. But Ahu... I don't know how to pronounce that. Ahu... I even did that part wrong. Rag. One of the Githyanki raiders. Not like this. Alan Alith. Alan Alith. It's been years since I've done arts and crafts. The line that I have for him, it's been slim pickings since the Absolute butchered that supply convoy, but have a look. Guess he's one of the random merchants in Baldur's Gate. Now, this next one is a very common character that happens to be on everyone's top list of characters they wish were playable, as Elfira, who sings one of the most commonly sung songs and iconic music from the game. She is a tiefling bard. Another tiefling named Amic. I believe he is also in the Druid's Grove. Not much to see from him, as he is one of the random tieflings that could potentially have a story. Instead of just being a random tiefling from Elturel. Next is one of a big player in Karlach's story. Once again, spoilers if you don't want to know it. Anders, who is one of the random cultists trying to chase her. He is also a paladin. It was very hard to fight if you aren't prepared for the damage he's going to throw out. Next is Andric, who is one of the random people you come across on the road as their brother, who is a dwarven individual, has been infected by a tadpole. He's one of the random two from the brother and sister duo that you can potentially manipulate into doing whatever you want. Next is a Pyxis. It's a weird name, but I believe she's one of the druids. She randomly had the birds doing reconnaissance for her because of the way that Koga was running the Druid's Grove. A Pyxis. Pyxis. She also, I believe, might be an actual canon character in the Forgotten Realms universe. I mean, technically all of them are, right? Because this an extension is D&D lore. Did I name this one? Lorita. Was she the one in... A lot of the gnomes look alike, especially the females, since they typically give them the same haircuts. So I believe this is Apprentice Lorita. Now, I can't tell whether this is the gnome that is attached, that you come across in the forge, or if this is one of the major gnomes you come across in Baldur's Gate later. But regardless, Lorita, when they do pick, or if they choose to pick in advance, which is an option, they will find who they would potentially... we would be basically doing research together to make sure that we have as much information on them as possible. They may not even have the same names, but they would play a very similar role as far as like story elements go. Next we have Eridan, who is one of the most people or most gamers who have played the game, at least for the first couple hours, have come across him, as he is the arrogant mercenary human with tanned skin that you come across when the goblins are raiding the tiefling camp. The first time, not the second time. Next is a character that is very interesting that you come across in the second act, called Araj. Now, she is a drow lady that happens to be in the Absolutes area. I'm not exactly sure if she is just there, or most people that are in the Moonrise Towers are there because they serve the Absolutes. But she is very interesting given the fact that she is an alchemist, but a very I hate saying the word because I don't know how to use it. I think masochist is the word that you use here. She has a very masochistic nature to her. So there's that. Now, some of the other random ones that I have decided to put into this are courage. Now, our courage, I've included, there's an area in the Underdark where there's a bunch of drow that were petrified, and basically have been petrified for a very long time via the spectator that they probably came across a long time ago, and basically been there for years and years. Arag is one of the randomly named drow that could potentially have a story, and not just be a randomly named assassin drow. What I will also do is I will... there's a lot of things as far as the game goes that is worth noting that I believe Baldur's Gate has done a lot of cool things for gaming that I don't think any game has truly really achieved. Dragon Age has been close on occasion, but BG3 does something really incredible, which is define what makes fantasy storytelling intriguing. It also does a great job of mimicking a lot of elements that you see at a Dungeons and Dragons table. The element of you truly can do what you want is palpable throughout that entire game. So, it is intriguing to see how the game plays and why it plays the way it does, and the advancements of technology has been crazy since I've started playing video games. It's crazy. The level of storytelling and character development. It's literally like it's a really an alive world. And I don't think we've ever seen Faerun look like this. Having an example of what it actually looks like to be in Faerun, which is awesome. It gives us dungeon masters a lot of wiggle room and a lot of interesting perspective of how, Wizards of the Coast, mostly Larian Studios, but Wizards of the Coast also had to approve of it, how they see their universe and world. And getting to explore an actual city in D&D is really interesting. Arcalia is next. Let's see this. Who is Arcalia? Interesting. I'm not exactly sure who this character is. Now, what I wish I could do Nah, I'm already halfway through. I just want to keep going. I've already committed to myself doing this. For those who, most people who look at this don't even know who I am, so it's fine. I have been diagnosed with ADHD ever since I was, I believe, 12 years old. And a lot of people have connected D&D and people who have ADHD together, because a lot of us DMs and a lot of us players who actually play the activity happen to have it. And to that I say, I've lost my train of thought. Great. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that I'm on new medication. And I'm not going to disclose what medication it is because I don't know the ramifications of talking about that kind of stuff online. So what I'll say, it is in higher dosage of the medication that I was taking originally. And it is hard for me personally to deal with it. Because while it gives me hyper focus, and it gives me exactly what I need to get through the day and accomplish things that I've accomplished things in the past week that I have put off for days, actually months, put off months, and it really puts me in a strange mood sometimes. I think it really, I'm following the doctor's advice and taking it consistently. I think I didn't take it consistently because I didn't like the way it felt originally. And you know your body, so you know how it's supposed to react and how things are supposed to work as far as your mind goes. But I find myself when I feel an emotion, I don't think I've ever. This might be how normal people feel, right? If they're at a place, like if I'm at work, I feel that emotion very intensely. If I am upset, I'm very upset, right? And I already lacked emotional regulation given the fact that I have ADHD. But I feel as though I'm feeling everything that I'm have kept down or not even recognized was there in my head, in my heart, so intensely. And it, like I said, it could be everything like rising up and I'm feeling everything at once. Or it could be the fact that my mind is so focused on that emotion at that moment, whether that emotion be get the fuck out of there, or whether that emotion be I really, really need to get this task done, that my mind is upset that it can't do that. So I get upset at myself. Because for years and years, ever since I was a little kid, all I did was just beat myself up because I've always been the problem. And I think that's a relatable thing for a lot of people with ADHD. Like, they feel like they're the problem because that's, a lot of us have been told that for years because our brains don't work the same as everyone else's. We're the issue. There's something wrong with us. What's wrong with you? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? And I don't know if I've felt all of that appropriately enough. Therapy's been good, but you know, there's so much that happens in life that we don't actually take the time to recognize and deal with that. I think we have a tendency to forget that we're human and we deserve to feel just as much as anybody else, regardless of how unique our brains are. I'm not going to worry about last names when I'm putting these in the bowl, mostly because I feel like it's a time waster. But I hope that's relatable to somebody. I'm older, so I don't like saying that because you know when you hit 30, when you're in your 30s, just hit it basically. You find yourself in that mindset of like, okay, so this is where it ends. And I think that's a stigma where that sucks because that's not the truth. It's not where it ends. A lot of where you belong, or a lot of what you figure out in life happens when you are in your 30s. So I had ADHD when I was in the 90s. So early 90s into the early 2000s were a time where ADHD wasn't really like recognized, and if you did have it, it's almost like, okay, well, who cares? Just deal with it. And the medications that they had at the time were so strong that they didn't make you feel any type of, they made you feel terrible. At least it made me feel terrible. If it worked for others, then great, but at times I would feel like a zombie. Like my feelings didn't matter, or I couldn't feel at all. Like my body shut itself off from emotions. And with this medication that I'm taking now, I feel everything, and almost a little too much. I've also had clinical depression. I've had that. I didn't get diagnosed with clinical depression until I think 4 or 5 years ago, which is I don't think it's officially recognized, but most doctors, it's like brain chemistry. I've known I've had depression ever since I was like 8 or 9, I think maybe around 10, maybe earlier than that. It started at a very young age because I recognized the feeling and it not being a normal feeling, but I never knew what it truly was. But I've been depressed for a very, very long time. And I know at this point that it's something that I can get through, and it's something that I can handle. But sometimes especially on this medication. That feeling of depression is just so much, and the weight is so heavy. And it's forcing me to deal with the things that, the feeling that, like, I haven't felt. Almost, or at least the feeling of why I'm feeling it, or at least like every little bit of it that I'm trying to hold down comes up, and it's almost too much. The weight of, it's almost like an emotional anchor that is just weighing you down and is dragging your soul and your heart through sharp rocks. I don't wish that on anybody. Even if I don't have enemies, and if I did, I would never wish that upon anybody. It is the most horrible feeling to feel like you do not have any sense of worth. Like nothing you do and nothing that happens to you in life, that every bit of it is something that you deserve. And that's not true. But I can't help but feel that way. And that could also be a sense of emotional dysregulation. I don't know I don't know the disorder that is. I'm over here waving scissors around. I don't know the disorder that is like you constantly feeling as if you're the issue. I've never known that was a disorder or even looked into it until recently. Probably have that. I might have a bit of BPD just because with ADHD you just kind of branch off into all these different disorders potentially. But I feel like I have BPD because of my medication. I don't know if that's actual BPD or my medication of forcing these emotions out of me. That is hard to tell. So hopefully, me being consistent with my medication, like the doctor told me, it'll regulate itself out, and I won't feel so heavy. Now, as much as I'm giving depressing tones to this conversation, I've never been suicidal. Never. I've felt and been at that place where I could have done it many times. But I'm too much of a coward to do it, if that helps, or at least makes it understandable. A lot of aspects as far as my life has gone, now that I've realized it, comes in from me being a coward. I've ran from so many things in my life in order to escape pain, escape blame, that I failed to really recognize that I'm just keeping myself in a box. And I feel like I'm a little too real for a lot of people. Like, when they go out and they hang out with others, or they ask people to go outside or to hang out, I'm always in my emotions. I'm always in my feels, so to speak. I think even when I'm off my medication, I can sometimes really be heavily into my feels. I'm just a very emotional person. And I've always been taught that's kind of like a weakness. And it's not even really anybody's fault. I think somehow my mind developed into it. I mean, maybe a little bit of masculine. I'm trying to think of the word. I think it's. I don't remember the definition of it, but like toxic masculinity. I've dealt with plenty of that in my life from people who aren't here anymore. So I can't even say this to the people who need to hear it. But I don't blame them for making me feel like garbage. They were just trying to help. And this is supposed to be a fun stream. And yet I always seem to turn this into something way more deep than it needs to be. But, you know, that's where this conversation is going. This is just a therapy session all of a sudden. But I think talking it out, and I'm just talking to a camera at this point, and just speaking out these emotions, I think it's very healthy. And I think I've lost what fun is. Or maybe I didn't even really know what it meant to have fun. I know that Dungeons and Dragons is fun. I know what the feeling I get when I DM and when I play, but I don't know anything else. Let me see if I'm doing this wrong. I might be. Settings. Oh, wow. That video is almost done. I might need to change the music anyway, because, you know, it's always good background music, but, you know, I can play other stuff. You don't have to be Baldur's Gate this entire time. Even though it's really good background music. Let's see if that's even registering. Okay, that's registering. That's good. Okay, so as I will continue what I'm doing. I've passively been doing that, but I've been mostly on my thoughts. So I'll try to get back on task with what we're doing here today instead of talking about my feels, you know, to a camera. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for a few years now, and it's really changed my life in a lot of different ways, especially during some dark times. I think in a weird way we're able to get out of I mean, at least for me, this is my experience. I'm able to get a lot of who I am out in these characters that we're playing in this silly game. Because, yeah, we're playing characters, but they're still us. They're still an extension of who we are as individuals. And I think that's probably the most special part of Dungeons and Dragons for me. The fact that it truly is you that is coming out in these characters. And sometimes, you know, people would rather just not go that far as roleplay and talking about who they are as individuals, or not putting parts of them inside of a character, just doing their own thing. But honestly, it's different. when you, it's a sense of vulnerability. When you decide to put all this work and effort into a character. It's not an easy task to do. It may look like we're all just sitting down at a table and just hanging out, and a lot of it is just hanging out with your friends. But these stories and adventures are something that only you and your friends are experiencing together. If you're playing with your kids, something that you and your kids are experiencing together. It's a shared experience that you will remember for the rest of your life. And sometimes people play it and it's not for them, which I totally understand. But if you get the right DM and the right people with you alongside the journey, and you're not afraid of a little vulnerability when it comes to roleplay, a lot of good things can come out of it. I have seen my friends do some really crazy cool things as far as roleplay goes. Our first Fable campaign that we've done on this channel, my buddy Chris had some really cool moments with his character that I could tell were coming from him. And that was pretty special to see. My friend Michael has had similar experiences with that campaign itself. And also, I think Fable was really good. Our first Fable campaign. Now, the Fable 2 campaign that we're doing on this channel, I'm mostly doing for my friends that have not played before. So Janel and Alice, if she will ever be back, she will. We're just gonna test this out. And if this goes well, I am looking to make another Friday campaign again, and hopefully I can get a good amount of people who are willing to spend some time on Fridays. Now, if the best case scenario when it comes to Friday, because the way that I am designing this campaign is that this will always be something that if anybody wants to come in and play, they can come in at any part of the campaign, the way that I'm designing it or trying to design it. They come in at any part of the campaign. They're able to drop in and play the character. If they can't be here for 2 or 3 weeks, it's perfectly fine. Just like the video game, you can drop in and drop out. And that's been difficult to make, but I think I found a great method of doing that. Just not overthinking it. A lot of great things can come from not overthinking things. As a constant overthinker, to the point where it depresses me, I know when it comes to other aspects of things, sometimes it's best not to overthink it. Just remember, if you're an introvert like me, I'm a heavy empath. I'm an empath, I'm an overthinker, and it gets me into these spirals of sadness that never mind. I've already explained this to you. Why am I explaining it again? What's wrong with me? Let's have fun. No, not this song. Let's play some Dremia music. By the way, fantastic artist. I've been using Dremia music. You can find them on YouTube for a long time when it comes to our campaigns. I started using him for Sky Orphans. I used a lot of his music when we were doing the Sky Orphans campaign. A lot of our older content, while the audio might not be the best, has been really good. The audio is normally pretty bad when we're very loud, but other than that, it was good. Like, I would highly recommend looking at some of our older stuff. We put a lot of time and effort into it, and a lot of work. Sky Orphans is a great campaign. It had a lot of humps and bumps, but overall, I am very happy with the success of that campaign. The Fable campaign, the first one, is probably our most well organized and well played campaigns as far as like character growth, characters that were made, decisions, and the weight and understanding the idea we wanted to come across when it came to the product of Fable and creating this strange mystical universe in a D&D format. I think it's overall one of our best campaigns as far as overall everything. It probably would be the best one. That's if you were to go back and look. But there's a lot of good ones. There's the Rime of the Ice Mating, Icewind Dale, which is, when I did do it, it was mostly just running off of the book to show everyone how ridiculously hard that book is. Because it is insanely hard. There are a couple of campaigns we never got to finish because of how unorganized we were with it and how much disinterest we had with the product after playing. And Out of the Abyss is the one that I feel was so hard to play because of how unfortunately badly written that book was. So unorganized, and with a really great start of being caught in a drow prison and having to escape. It had so much potential, and then it just kind of turned into a boss rush, which in theory is okay, but I don't know, for me it's pretty lame. I think there was a lot more they could have done to make that a little bit more of an engaging campaign. Another one that we did was Waterdeep, and we have attempted Waterdeep twice. The first time, it was literally my first time DMing ever. Then the second time was the one that you see on the channel, which once again the audio is but you're able to experience and understand how good of a campaign setting that is. Waterdeep Dragon Heist might be the best campaign setting as far as like adventures go. They're already doing it in the excellently written city of Waterdeep that is already brimming with lore. I don't know. There's just a lot that is really well thought out and made on this channel. Now, the other topic of conversation that I need to have, that I need to probably come to terms with maybe, is when we do this new game, the one shot will be on this channel, but we might be changing. We might be starting up a new channel just for Dungeon Pizza, since Dungeon Pizza is a completely new name for the channel, and we used to go by AC2 High, then we tried 1D4 Wizards, and now this third arc is Dungeon Pizza. Now I'll tell you, this is going to be a very heavy passion project for me. I don't know how much more passion and energy I can put into Dungeons and Dragons itself, given the fact that I am getting older and I need to figure my shit out. But I don't think anyone ever really has it together, and I need to give myself a break sometimes. But I am a firm believer, if you don't like the situation that you're in, then you should probably do something about it. But I'm better at giving advice than following it, especially given the lack of motivation that ADHD gives me. Small goals. You got to work with small goals and start. Before you get to big, you got to start small. And this is the first step in this big project. Starting small by giving little test phases out, seeing how well organized I can make this, what I would like to do with it. If I would like to do this on a completely new channel and start over and feel like all this work that I put into this channel is completely and utterly pointless. Which I think is the hardest aspect of it, because there's so many good stuff on this channel. Just to see it kind of die would be very sad for me. But that's something I might have to come to grips with in order for a long-term success, potentially, when it comes to creating content as far as Dungeons & Dragons go. I know that the more try-hard you are on the internet, the more likely you are to not do well, especially when it comes to like TikTok algorithms. It's complete nonsense most of the time. But there's going to be a heavy amount of effort thrown into this project. And if this is the last project I ever do, as far as this channel goes, or in general, then I'm going to make it freaking awesome. Cook. Darley. Now, I don't know what much else there is to talk about at the moment, so I might end the stream here. As I guess mostly I wanted to talk to you guys about stuff. The only thing I would like to talk about is, this conversation people are having about Starfield and the unique drama surrounding that. Now, I personally believe that Starfield is a pretty good game. I unfortunately am a gamer that likes to analyze what I'm playing, especially when it comes to the roleplay aspect. I've always been that type of gamer. RPGs are like my thing. I love it so much. And the amount of nothingness that the game has sometimes is a little bit overwhelming. Sometimes I feel like I'm literally just doing something pointless, which I'm pretty much doing something that is pointless most of the time, especially when you're playing that game. But I would like to think that the game's overall dynamic, as far as like some very well designed quest lines mixed in with very terribly designed quest lines, like it feels like planets are written by completely different teams. If you go to the Mars city, it's really well written. I love that area. It feels like most of the characters are alive, compared to New Atlantis, which everyone's just dull. While the facial expressions in the are well designed, I just feel everyone is just boring. The NPCs are just doing Bethesda stuff that are just blandly walking around, and I don't know. I put a decent amount of hours into the game in order to understand that it's for some people. I don't know if it's my type of game. I mean, I guess it is kind of because I've been playing it, and if you put a decent amount of hours into something, you are. But it's just unfortunate that it came out around the same time as Baldur's Gate 3 because of how well that game is doing at the moment. It is blowing everything outside of the water because of how well it's designed and how much love and care went into the game. From the quest lines to the characters that you are interacting with, nothing feels dull. You compare the NPCs, even the NPCs that you see walking around in Baldur's Gate, and you compare them to the NPCs that are walking around in Starfield. In Starfield, they feel lifeless, angry. They constantly are giving you like a weird stink face. And then on the other hand, you have Baldur's Gate, where not all of them are interactable, but the ones that you are interacting with, they have maybe quick little lines that you need that you're able to talk to them about. A lot of the people in the city, they're just walking by and it feels like an alive city. Sometimes it's best not to be able to interact with NPCs. It's just unfortunate for Starfield as far as that aspect goes. But if you're asking my general opinion on the game, I think it's pretty good. I don't really have many complaints when it comes to it. It's a Bethesda game and a really well-designed Bethesda game. But there's a lot of aspects, or in some aspects that have already been pointed out, that make it pretty lackluster. There's some laziness and some aspects of the game as well that make me question why I would even consider playing it. Some glitches here and there, not many, which is good, but the glitches are annoying, especially since one of the glitches completely doled out the entirety of the Xbox. The Xbox completely went dull with sound. And not only that, it broke the sound on not one game, but multiple, as Xbox's sound wouldn't... It like broke the sound on the Xbox, it felt like, for a bit. Until we restarted the Xbox and the same thing was happening. And after around like 3 restarts, it finally came back. And that was just like wild to me. Like, while there isn't that many glitches, ones that are coming up are pretty big and unacceptable in some aspects. So you take that with take that with a grain of salt. Overall, if I'm comparing the games, I don't think I'm having that much of a controversial opinion by saying that Baldur's Gate 3 is overall just a better game. Doesn't take away from how good of a game Starfield is. If anyone actually listens to this, thank you for coming across it. I hope you have a great day, and we're doing some really great things here. Pretty interesting ideas when it comes to tabletop experiences, some unique ones. And I hope you stick around. I really do. We're putting a lot of heart and determinations into these next projects. And while it might not get the recognition it deserves, it probably won't. It could, and it should. I think we've worked hard enough that we can get to a point where our content is acceptable to y'all, to myself. Once again, thank you guys, and have a good day. I think I can just stir with my thoughts now. Tomorrow there will be a one shot, and this is going to be the test of the NPC to PC test. Um, we will see how that goes, and have a good day.